What it is, people? Greetings from Fa here from awesometudes.com, and I want to talk about something that most people who ask me about programming are really scared of, and that is math in programming. Ooh, it's really scary, but in fact it isn't. It's really simple. Now I'm gonna erase everything what we did here, because I'm using the same class, which is our public tester, and going to this start method, which we saw here, we use it here. Actually, we use the wake in our pumpkin and in our camera follow. We also use the wake. We will talk about that soon enough. But this start function will be called when we run our game. When I say run our game means when we press play here, the play button right here, all of the scripts that are attached to game objects here in the hierarchy. So for example, this script right here, it will go, or Unity or the compiler or whoever will go inside of those scripts looking for these methods, start, awake, and it will initialize them right away. So start, here we initialize our code, which means that we can test things that we want to do now. And I want to talk, as I said, about math. And that's just basic math. If you've been to kindergarten, if you've been in the first class in your elementary school, then okay, you are a programmer. Just like that. So you know to program. Let's start and see. So let's say I have int a, and that is equal to 5. And now I have int b, which is equal to 6. If I want to sum them up, I can say int sum is equal to a plus b. And that is that. I can also say a minus b, a multiplied by b, or divide them. But I'm going to say here plus, or leave it at plus. And now we want to see the result. How can we see the result? And by the way, this is that basic math. So this is everything that you need in order to perform mathematical calculations in programming languages. In all other programming languages, this is the same. So you simply type a plus b, or even we can say here 5 plus 6 instead of typing a plus b, if we don't want to declare these variables right here. Now we want to see this when we run our game. And for that, we have this console right here, which gives us a warning that we use these variables. Just ignore it. It's telling us that we have declared them here, but we are not using them anywhere else. We know that, so don't worry. Now we need this console. If you don't have it, you can go under Window, and then it's right here at the bottom, console, or Shift Command C, probably Shift Control C on Windows. And here we can print everything from our code. And how can we do that? Well, we can use two methods for it. So we can use print statement, or we can use debug.log. So either of these can do. So if we use debug.log or print, that can do. And what we want to print, or what we want to debug.log in the console, we simply put it between these parentheses. So we want to type sum, or see the outcome of sum. So I'm going to remove debug.log because we don't need it. And when we run our game, it is going to simply type or calculate 5 plus 6, and it is going to print it in the console for us to see. Now going back here, I just mentioned that here in the console, or when Unity runs our game, it will go in every script that is attached to a game object. This is what I mentioned. And what I mean by that, in order for this script to work, to execute, if we run our program now, or if we run the game now, notice nothing is gonna happen. So nothing at all. Why is that? Well, in order for a script to work, we need to create a game object and attach that script on a game object. So please, you can bookmark this. So you will see bookmark at the bottom, in the bottom middle of your video where you are watching, and bookmark this. So what you need to do in order for make a script to work, you can either right click here in the hierarchy panel and click on create empty, or you can go under game object and click on create empty, and here it is. And we're going to call this one tester game object. So this is our tester game object, and now we need to attach our script on it. So we can either drag the script and attach it on him right here. I think we can also attach it like this, so dragging it and releasing it here. Yes, that can work. And we can also go under add component and search for tester. And here it is, and we can hit it, and now it is attached. But we have attached 2. We don't need 2, we only need 1. So now I'm going to click on this gear icon here and remove component, and now we only have 1. So if we run our game now, so if I hit run here, we are going to see 11 printed in the console. And since this is our scene of our game, I don't want to watch these columns every time. I'm simply going to go File, New Scene. Okay, save this scene, we don't care. And I'm gonna simply resave this one. So let me just go here, Asset, Scenes. Doesn't matter which the name of the scene. I'm gonna say Tester and hit Save. But we need to again create an empty game object, which I'm gonna call Tester. So Tester. And I am gonna attach the tester script on him. If I run our app now, or our game, we are gonna see 11 printed here in the console. And if I double tap on it, it's gonna bring me right here. It's gonna bring me to the code that has printed that in the console. Now, if we want to do one thing, which is called string concatenation, that is, combine strings and integers, we need to use the plus sign. So if we want to do something like this, the sum of A and B is, and now we want to add this sum. So if I say here, instead of 5, I say A, and instead of 6, I say B, and I want to print this sum, but also I want to print all of this right here, then we cannot go here and type sum. This will not work. It will simply type the sum of A and B is sum. But what we need to do is we need to say here plus and then sum, which this sum right here refers to this integer right here, and this plus sign, it's gonna concatenate the string. Concatenation, in this case, means that it is gonna combine this string and this integer into a single string. So if we run our game now, we are gonna see the sum of A and B is 11. So sum A and B is 11. And if you are wondering why did I left here an empty space, so why didn't I put the end of the quote right here? Well, it's because I need to separate this sum from this string. Notice if I go and run our game now, we are gonna see that the sum of A and B is 11. And notice there is no space between is and 11. Let me just pop this right here. So there is no space between is and 11. And in order to give space, simply, well, separate and leave space right here. And why am I telling you this? Well, this is how you are usually gonna, well, print things to the console. You're gonna say script worked and print something with the script, so on and so forth, which we will see later on. So let us take a look at some other operations that we can do. I said that we can also perform A minus B or subtraction. So if I go here and hit the run button, we are going to see the sum of A and B is -1, but actually it should be the subtraction, or however it is called, of A and B is -1. Why? Well, because A is 5 and B is 6. And yes, programming languages can calculate negative numbers. So 6 or 5 minus 6 is -1. Moving forward, we have multiplication. So I can multiply it right here and go back here, run our app, and it's going to be 30. Why? Well, because 5 times 6 is 30. But one thing that we're going to notice now when we try to divide them, so if we divide A by B, we're going to get 0. So notice if I go here, we are going to get a 0. Yeah, so 0. Even if we go now here, if we go and let's say I change A to 8 and we divide 8 by 6, what we are going to get is 0 again. So going here, or actually 1. So excuse me for that one, we got 1, but that is not true. Why? Well, the point here is that if we divide 6 by, or 8 by 6, we know that's a decimal point number, and we know that these are integers. So integers cannot represent decimal point numbers. If we want a precise calculation of these numbers like this, then I'm going to simply change them to floats. So this one also and this one also. But we need to add F here and F here. We don't need to add F on this one because we are dividing two floats. Previously, the result was 1. When we go back and run our app now, we are going to see the result is 1.333 and so on and so forth. Why? Well, because now we have more precise calculation, because 8 divided by 6, that's 1 point some number, apparently 1.33 and 333. And because integers can only hold whole numbers, Well, that is the reason why we saw one. Integers will round up that number to the closest whole number. So if it's 1.3, it's going to round it to 1. If it was 1.6, it will round it at 2. So the closest whole number. Of course, everything that applies in math using parentheses. So if we do something like this, for example, if I say here, open close parentheses, 2 plus 3, and then I multiply that by, let's say, 4 minus, and I can again open here and close parentheses, and I can say 4 divided by 3, and I can close the parentheses again. This is gonna work. So it's gonna calculate, of course, it's gonna give advance or the priority, same as in math. So in this case, I think it's first going to calculate these two because they are in the first parenthesis. Then they are going to multiply, but they're going to wait. So what they need to calculate this, they're going to calculate 4 divided by 3 and then 4 minus that number. And then they're going to multiply this one by 4. I'm just curious which result is here because I have no idea. You see, I'm no math wizard, but I can program. And the sum is 15. Interesting enough, it's 15. I also want to mention that, for example here, we have a float, a and b. And let's say if we try to do this, float sum is equal to a plus b, not hide flags, but a plus b. This is all regular, this can work. If we go here, we don't have any problems, so on and so forth. But if we try this, if we say int sum is equal to a plus b, this is not going to work. If we go back here, it says cannot implicitly convert type float to int. An explicit conversion exists. Are you missing a cast? What does that mean? Well, that means that we cannot put these two floats or calculate them and put them in an integer. We cannot, except if we cast them. What is casting? Casting is converting, for example, in this case, converting a float in an integer. And how can we do that? Well, in front of the variable, so in this case a, we open close parentheses and we type int, and we can do the same thing for the b, simply copy the code and put it right here, and this is called casting. If we go back here, this error is gonna go away now. So yeah, the error is gone and we don't have any problems. And this is called casting. Bookmark this because it is important. And we simply put open close parentheses. In between these parentheses, you type the type of the variable to which you want to cast this variable right here. So this variable a is currently a float, which we see here. But since we want to put them in an integer, it does not allow us only if we use this cast. That cannot work. But vice versa, it works. So if this is int a and this is int b, and now we need to remove f here. So if this is int a and int b, we can say float sum is equal to a plus b, not start coroutine, but a plus b. And if I save the script and go back in Unity, we are not going to see any problems right here in the console. I can even clear it. We can even run the project and we will see the sum is 14 because float or integers can be put in a float because they are whole numbers. Float will just convert them into a decimal point number. No biggie. But if you want to put them in an integer, then it will not work. And let me just test quickly here. If one of them is a float and another is an integer, this should work also for a float. Yeah, for a float that works, no problem. But for an integer, it also does not work. If we tried like this, int sum, even though the b variable right here is a float, and we are gonna, well, add that float to another integer, which is a right here, and put the sum of those two numbers in an integer, I don't think it will work. Yeah, it does not work. Both of these variables need to be integers because one of them is a decimal point number and another is not. Why it works vice versa, I'm not sure, but just memorize this. And it's the same for a double. So when I use float, and in any situation that float is involved, it will be the same thing for a double. So even if I go here and type double and remove f here because we don't need that for a double and go back here, it will simply change here, cannot convert type double to an integer. Previously, it stated cannot convert float to an integer. But this is just for you to know in case that you run into these problems. If you see this right here, it cannot convert them, then it probably means that you are trying. And even this is one of the debugging things that you should do. So immediately when you see here an error, double click on it right away and see where it is pointing. And from there on, you're going to start and debugging your projects. Later about debugging, we will see that in the course, and I will show you how I fix my problems, so on and so forth. But this is how you would proceed to fix the problem. Double click on it, see where it's pointing, and it says cannot completely convert. And you're simply going to see, okay, int a, or the variable a is an integer. We are putting that in an integer, but b is a double. That does not work. But again, vice versa, it will work. If I simply change this int to a double and go back here, it will work. If it's a double here, you can use 2 integers here, no problem. But if it's an int here, you cannot use floats. All of them needs to be integers, and you simply need to cast them. So in this case, you're going to cast b, open close parentheses before the variable, and then type the type of the variable you want to cast it to. And this is that scary concept regarding math in programming languages. Of course, if you want to be a programmer for 3D graphics, drivers, or something like that, then you would need to know 3D math, which is a little bit more complicated than this, and I don't know it. Don't ask me, I don't know it. But if you want to make games like these that we are going to make in this course and other games that are out there, then this is the math you need and you're good to go. So this was the basics of operations with variables in programming languages. And Fahir here from awesometunes.com, and I will see you guys in the next video.